Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians. I'm your host Luke, and this week I'm joined by one of Australia's great bass players, Lucas Taranto. With a massive resume of recording and touring work, Lucas has played some of the world's most iconic venues and stages. Of course, I couldn't resist asking about his time with Gotye during the Somebody That I Used to Know era, and Lucas generously shared some incredible stories from that wild period of global success. But his career didn't start or stop there, far from it. We chat about how he first picked up the bass, how he established himself in the industry, working with different band leaders, life as a working musician, and yes, even a bit of gear talk. Lucas is not only a phenomenal player, but he's also an incredibly humble and thoughtful musician, and I'm so grateful to have had him on the show. Quick disclaimer, way too many nice things were said about me by Lucas. Clearly, he's a class act. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for trekking over to Northside.
Nah, it's all good. It gives me an excuse to be out here, you know what I mean?
Excellent.
Go visit a few people on the way home.
Yeah, sick.
I go see, do you know Jethro Negron?
Oh, again, I know who he is.
Yeah. He just bought a bass, so I'm going to go to his house.
Cool.
Yeah.
What did he get?
Just like a Yamaha RBX, like a standard
Okay, yeah.
bass thing. But he doesn't have an amp and stuff, so I'm like, man, take one of my amps.
Oh, sick.
You know, like do some practice and I'll get some drum tips off him. Because, you know, he's got that whole Horatio El Negro, whatever that guy's name is, you know, like clave with this foot, this pattern.
Yeah. It's wild.
So, yeah, but he's got this real amazing sense of time. And I want to understand how he does that. Yeah, because I really struggle with that. Like, playing with him, you know, like I'll get lost every now and again, and he's just like looking at me going, 1. And I'm like, how? Yeah, it's all that playing over the bar. Like, I just don't know how he always has this sense of 1 as a percussionist. It blows my mind.
Do you find yourself getting wrapped into the, like, you know, he's playing like a feel of 3 and you switch into it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's that. Yeah. But there's also just like, because you know, like as a bass player, you're always sort of playing on beat 1 and all of a sudden you're doing tumbao, so nothing's on 1.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what I mean? So there's this sense of internal time that I've never had to really tap into. It's like quite different. So yeah, I mean, like when I say get lost, like it's not like crazy things happen as a train wreck, but it's just like, dude, like you just missed it there. You're like, come on.
Yeah.
I'm like, far out, man. That never happens at any gigs except for with him. So I'm like, okay, maybe his sense of time's messed up and I'm trying to adjust. No,
Yeah.
I've got it all the wrong way.
Man, come on, just if you could play in time, please.
Yeah. I don't know, but I love it because it's they think about time so differently. Hey, in that sort of Latin jazz and more traditional like Latin music, I guess, from where he's from, Chile and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just more stuff to learn. It never ends, does it, Scout? Ooh, you must be a very musical dog.
Oh, she loves it.
I hope so. Yeah, it's loud sometimes.
I've got to send a photo to Floydie of you cuddling Scout, if that's cool.
Oh, dude, of
Because
course.
he'll be like, he's overseas, but he sends his love.
Oh, awesome.
And he came over to show me clips of you playing with Gotye for like the 2 hours before he went to the airport.
What?
Yeah. He was like, I was watching this stuff on YouTube. Do you know Lucas? And I was like, yeah, he's coming over for the podcast next week. And he was like, I was just watching this stuff at home and it's great.
That's yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no control over it, but anyways, yeah, okay, cool. I'm embarrassed. I'm flattered. I'm so curious as to what he was watching. There's stuff that I haven't even seen.
Well, it's too much. You played too many shows.
Yeah, a lot of shows, but also it's hard to watch sometimes. I don't know how you find it, but you know, seeing yourself play, it's hard to not to be super critical. Even no matter how amazing it is. Even when I've had the best gig of my life, and you'll listen to it back, and you're like, oh, that note wasn't quite right, and yeah, there's always something to pick on.
Yeah,
but it's the curse. That's why we're here.
it is, right?
Yeah. Anyway, man, do I need to know anything? Have we already started?
Yeah.
Have you like tricked me?
Yeah.
Is this the last conversation that I thought wasn't being recorded?
Yeah. I'll just cut it in from like wherever.
All right.
But I just run it because it's, you know, sometimes people just immediately start like
Yeah.
going.
Talking their mouth off like I have. Yeah, totally. No, it's true.
There's a pair of cans in the corner.
Cool.
If you'd like to can it up. It's my preference because I think it helps just like with just a little bit of quality control.
Yeah, for sure.
And also we get to play a fun segment where I play you a little thing.
Oh no.
I'm just gonna set that.
Cool. Testing.
How's this as like a comfort level for you?
There's a dog on my lap. Extremely comfortable. Yeah, no, this is fine, man. This is great.
There's a bathroom at the end of the corridor if you need it.
Oh, cool.
You know, move the mic stand around, whatever. Like,
Awesome.
I can cut stuff out. I'm kind of just leaving it like a road show, like a live show, radio sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
But like, you know, I'll just, if you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or let me try that again, or whatever. Like,
okay, cool. Yeah.
I can smash it around and do whatever.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
It's really chill.
Yeah, that might happen in a couple of weeks where I'm like analysing everything I said in my head. 4:00 in the morning, you'll get a message. I need to read. I've thought about what I just said. It's all wrong.
I'm coming back. We're doing it again.
Yeah, totally.
I've had one of them.
Really?
Do you know Joey Petruni?
No, I don't.
He's a like Lebanese Australian percussionist.
Cool.
And he normally plays like a cajon hybrid kit.
Okay.
Really interesting guy, but like in the sort of like Spanish Melbourne music scene. I think Spanish. Is that the right?
I'm guessing with a cajon.
Yeah. Anyway, he went to my high school, but he was like, you know, in year 12 when I was in year 7.
Yeah.
So I followed up. But yeah, he called me like 2 or 3 days later. He's like, man, I got to come back and we got to do it again. Like I've been thinking about all these things and I didn't articulate this how I wanted to. And I really wanted to talk about this, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's all right. We'll just do it again. Come back. And
that might be me. I'm
know
just warning you. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like being a musician, it's that ever evolving, you know, your views change, your groove changes, the way you play.
Yeah.
It's even your perception of things, and yeah, it's amazing. It's a constant evolution, which is, I think, what we all love about it. But yeah, so expect that phone call from me in a couple of days.
so I was like, that's fine.
Yeah, it's also an excuse to come and see Scout again.
Yeah.
Ooh, little dog.
Oh, well, Scout and I would both love to have you back.
Anytime.
And bring a record or something and we can have
man.
a listen.
Oh, I love that setup. I miss mine.
So my brother-in-law, Leroy, Tony's son,
Yep.
he brings me a series of like records every like fortnight.
That's awesome.
From his like extremely niche jazz collection. And so we just get to sit down and listen. I have this like record library that comes to me, and
that's so fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And it's that great thing about records too. It's like start to finish, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have that ease of just skipping songs and all that kind of stuff. I miss that a little bit.
Do you still listen to albums at all?
As in records, vinyl?
Well, like at least a full album or something?
You know what? Honestly, not as much, I don't think. Due to the whole digital technology age, I don't think I do quite as much. Yeah, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I did. That's a little bit scary. Saying that, though, my vinyl player isn't set up in the house at the moment. Yeah, we've got a bit too small of a place. But I think that's a really sad thing because that's how albums are made, you know what I mean? To be listened to start to finish. It's like, you know, I'm sure you've experienced it. You know, you record an album for someone and then they spend so much time on track order and what the flow is and all this kind of stuff, and it's like one piece of art, but we just don't consume it like that anymore. You know, it's everything's Spotify and YouTube and Tidal and, you know, Apple Music and stuff. So yeah, it's a funny one, that one. But then again, saying that, I know people aren't releasing music the same. You know, not everyone's doing albums. Everyone's just doing single releases or EPs or whatever. So, again, it's a constant evolution.
Yeah.
The music industry.
It's so true. It's changing so much.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. Especially like, you know, I feel very blessed, but when I started, man, there was no internet and stuff like that. You know, you couldn't just download tabs to learn something, and everything just had to be off ear or like a bootleg, or you'd have to tape it off the TV or the radio or whatever, you know, to get a copy of that song and learn it. So yeah, it's, you know, and I guess there's a plus and a minus to both sides of that. I always think about, you know, speaking earlier about Tony Floyd, he's my prime example of this. And I'm sorry if I would have told you this story, but I remember doing a gig with him, and we were playing Just So What You Take, Walking on the Moon by the Police, and it came to that bit in the middle, with all the hi-hat delays, and Tony played every single one, every single one. It was like I was listening to the album, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, what the hell? How did you do that? Like, that was incredible. And he said, well, when I was young, that came out on vinyl. There's no like instructional video. There was no, behind the scenes in the studio thing. So he listened to it as a young kid and thought that's how he's playing it. So he learnt it that way with all the delays and everything, but just as accents and, sticking patterns and whatever else.
Wow.
So, yeah, if someone had said to him, oh, that's easy, that's just a delay pedal, then I guess he would have learnt it that way, but he didn't. So that gave him this extra edge, this extra technique, this extra ability. And I think that's kind of cool. We don't get that as much anymore because, we just look it up on the internet and go, oh, yeah, that's how we played it. Cool. Done. I remember, like, I'm doing this gig at the moment, and we're playing the song Graceland,
Oh, yeah.
With the slap bass. No, Call Me Al, sorry.
Oh.
With the whole, all those parts and stuff
Yeah.
like that, the bass parts. And I just went, I've never really learnt this properly. I searched it. I found a video of Paul Simon's bass player, like, talking you through it and playing it all and everything. And I just thought, man, that's so cool that we've got access to this, that I can actually go to this gig now and play it exactly with the same fingerings, the same fret, like everything exactly as he does. And so that's kind of cool, but yeah, two sides to the coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had anywhere like you've, learned a tune by ear and then years later you've seen it and it's like, oh, like that's so much easier than the way that I was doing it.
Dude, totally, 100%.
Yeah, because surely you're just like trying to find it and then,
Also, I can be lazy, I'll admit that. I'm just like, oh yeah, the part, yeah, go something like that. Yeah, cool. Off we go, And then 10 years later, you're still playing it wrong and you hear it and you're like, oh, that's how that goes. Oops. Yeah, it's funny. There's another great muso, Jonathan Scoverin, and I have this conversation a lot.
Oh, yeah?
About doing gigs, and people just play things the wrong way because that's how we always play them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to think of a good example. Like, there's certain songs, like, what's it? Signed, Sealed, Delivered, for example. Like, everyone plays that horn line with the anticipation, but I don't think it's in the very first time. It's just
yes,
and it's something like that. But like, we have all these conversations about listening to songs and going, man, the bass line actually goes like this, but no one plays it like that. So yeah, it's a funny one. It's a funny one, that. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but I'm not too fussed if people don't play things exactly the way they are. I like that conversation. I like when people mess things up or just make things a bit different, a bit more interesting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A bit more of a conversation on the gig.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We are like by no means on anywhere near the same level. But when I
you
first
say that,
playing,
but we've done gigs together, so you know what I mean. You only play.
Gigs.
Still a gig, man. You know what I mean?
All right,
It was still a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Besides the electronic drums, we'll get into that later.
Oh, yeah, the nightmare wedding gig. I think when I first started playing, like wedding gigs, and I got the call to come to White Trail, I had to learn 200 songs in a week.
Yeah.
And it was I thought it was like you had to know everything, and so I would transcribe all like the drum fills and all right, it's like this, and he plays it like that, and he does this, but I think I really liked it. And then when I got to the gigs, and it was like, oh, we're not playing like a specific album recreation, or I'd learn the song and then I'd check out like a live version or two to like try and figure out what the ending is.
Okay,
but then there's all these like wedding band endings.
Yes,
that was very different to the syncopated hits of like Michael Jackson or something.
Yeah.
And
totally.
then I'd like end all the songs and like I don't know how we're gonna end it. No one's told me. So I'm just gonna like confidently play the one I've learned.
Yes. You know what's cool about that though? If someone else catches it, it's like, oh yeah, you've listened to that. Oh, that's so cool.
Then it's really exciting.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great thing though. Like, that's a fantastic learning experience. Just learning things. Like I'm really bad at learning things exactly as they are. just, yeah. I don't have the patience, and I feel like I'm, what's the word? Like I'm just replicating someone else's playing really badly. You know, it's always like, well, that's great, but what would I do? You know, that's how I try to think of these things.
Yes.
Yeah. But like, then again, like I've had that same experience that you've had, that you just spoke about. And you know, your first gig, you learn everything perfectly, and you know, you show up and you play it. I remember like exactly what you said. I had to learn, you know, I was like 20 years old or something, and I had to learn 3 sets of music in the space of a couple of weeks. I remember we had one rehearsal and we played 4 songs, and the singer goes, do you know all the songs that well? And I was like, well yeah, I learned them. You asked me to. And he's like, cool, rehearsal's finished, see you at the gig. This will be totally fine. Oh. Yeah, which was amazing. Wow. Yeah, but then that gig was great because I got really bored. So I started messing around a lot, and people reacted to it, and they let me. So I was like, cool, this is way more fun. This is way more fun than just playing the song, you know what I mean? Especially back then, man, that was like a 3-chord cover band, you know, like sort of dirty rock, grungy, you know, Blink-182, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
All the fun stuff. But yeah, it was great. It was great, you know. But then, you know, changing Blink-182 songs to have different inversions and voice leading and stuff. Why not? That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I should finish my story then, because Andy Fissenden took the Guy Sebastian tour, and so I got his like last minute wedding gig calls, and so
you're filling in for Andy Fissenden, the best drummer in Australia. Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah. Yet you're nowhere near the level of me. Okay, cool. Anyways,
or Andy, and so I had 3 weddings in the week, and I got the call on Tuesday for that weekend.
Yep.
And you know, so it's like 4 sets for each wedding, and each singer has their like 4 set lists.
Yeah.
And it was before there was a standard list, so everybody had their own songs. And so, you know, I'm like practicing so much, and I was still at uni, so I had, you know, the time for it, but like, you know, I was going really hard. And then we got to the gig, and they weren't calling tunes from the set list. They were just calling them off the fly.
Yeah.
And I grew up not knowing like all of those like Australian like 80s and 90s
totally
songs. So I didn't know them. And like, I'm so glad that I had like amazing bass players that would just, all right, hits now.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's straight 8s in 1, 2, and okay, and we're off. And I think that sort of loosened me up.
But also, not only loosened you up, but like also like sort of really would have tuned your ears into being able to, like, you know, for lack of a better phrase, like improvise through a song.
Yeah.
Basically, because you've never heard it before, you've never played it before, but to make it work as the song, you know what I mean? I'm assuming no one was upset at you in the gig for the songs you didn't learn, and you played great.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think sometimes, man, those experiences are really great because they help you, you know, just become a better musician. They help you do things on the fly, or if someone changes something else, then you can adapt to it really quickly. Or, you know, if someone calls a song you don't know, it's like, yeah, cool, how's the groove go? Cool. And then you understand that formulaic thing of, you know, verse, chorus, bridge, double chorus out. Woo!
Don't forget the 3/4 bar.
Yeah,
well, there it was.
Well, then there's those songs, you know. Yeah, there's those songs. But in terms of all that, you know, that corporate gig stuff, it's sort of it really, for me, it really doesn't matter. You know, we're there to be. It's great having conversations with us, like that is the band. You know, having these little musical gags or cool things that we do. You know, but in the end, those sort of gigs, man, we're just entertainment. You know, we're there to fill the room with good atmosphere and help people dance and party and get drunk and or whatever they choose to do. But yeah, I think on those gigs you need to have lots of fun for yourself to keep yourself sane. But also the more fun we have on stage, then that comes across, and the audience, of course, loves it. Yeah. For those wedding gigs, like we're entertainment. Like let's not, you know, yeah. There's a definite, you can go too far. with changing up songs and stuff like that. But like the last gig we did, man, I even remember like Rel, you know, you'd be playing one song and then she'd mash it up with something else, sing a totally different melody of a song over something, and man, it works, you know. And for us, it's so entertaining.
Yeah, she's great at that. Just like, bang, here's another chorus. Bang, here's another one. And it all just sits over the same groove.
Yeah, Rel's great at everything. She's so incredible, that woman.
Yeah.
I swear to God. And like, man, like, yeah, what a singer. Jesus.
Well, we should chat about some of your like original music stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Because, well, we should get Gotye out of the way.
Let's do it.
Because, like, I was a big fan when it came out.
Yeah.
It was, an interesting thing where, like, we were talking about albums, but I feel like I know the whole album, but most people just know the song.
Yeah.
Somebody I used to know.
Yeah. No, that's the guy that definitely creates an album start to finish with absolute pure intention in every single note that is on that album. Not only every bit of silence as well is there intentionally. Yeah, he's amazing. Actually, Kimber was another one too.
Yes.
Her last album was probably the last one. Not the last album. It was The Golden Echo. Start to finish, I just thought that was a masterpiece. Love that album. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But no, Wally Gotye, yeah, that was huge for me. Like, yeah, what a learning experience, and what a gig, man. What a gig. Yeah.
What was it like?
Sorry, I was just waiting for the question. Yeah,
well, yeah,
it was dude. That's what it was.
Let me get a good question in. What was it about you that he wanted you on the gig for?
I knew him. We went to high school together.
Oh,
yes,
yeah, right.
Yes, so we were playing music, man. Like my first ever original band, Downstairs, STARES, like looking down.
Oh, yeah.
We were clever. Downstairs was our first band in high school. And then, of course, he went off to study law and Japanese. Like, basically the band broke up. One guy went to live in London, and another guy was off. We just all sort of split up doing our own things, and I did music, studied music and whatever else. But, yeah, then he kept doing the Gotye stuff, his own stuff. And, I'd go down to his house and record parts and all that kind of stuff. So, like, I'm on the Broadface album and the Luck Drawing Blood and stuff like that. So, yeah, and then when, I think when Hearts a Mess became sort of popular and he was thinking of putting a band together, yeah, he called me up and he was like, hey, man, like, what gigs are you doing? And, because we'd always stayed in touch. We were, really close friends. Me, Wally, our mate Ben Spoil and Trev McMillan all went to high school. So, yeah, and I was super flattered that he was like, would you be keen on touring and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, man, for you, are you serious? Of course. Like, so, yeah, and that was sort of the beginning of it all. And it was nice because we got to really reconnect.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're like, but like my high school years, like even when I was at high school, I knew that they were just a blip in the ocean. You know what I mean? They were drop in the ocean. They were just part of my life that I just had to get through because the rest of my life was ahead of me. So going through that with Wally, and then like sort of having all of us having our separate time, and then coming back sort of years later, with reconnecting like that as adults was really, really special. And I think that gave us a strong connection. And how do I say? I could play bass at that point. I'd done plenty of professional gigs. I was working in theatre and, bands and whatever else. So I guess he knew I could play. So, yeah, and he just wanted, I think he also wanted a friend, We've had conversations about this. He finds it kind of somewhat lonely making music by himself. So he's in another band called The Basics, and he loves it because him and those guys really bounce ideas off each other. But with Gotye, man, it's just him sitting in his room. He makes every single decision. Does that hi-hat need more 4K? I've got to make a decision. Is that bridge too long? Should I chop a bar out? He's got to make a decision, So, which he's generally pretty good at. yeah. But I mean, like, in essence, that's kind of how I got the gig. I could play, and we went to high school together. We were mates.
Wow.
And I got to say, like, even on tour, it was nice because even in the early days, man, like he'd be so busy. And he'd be doing this, and management would be running around, and we've got to get to this interview, and the band's like, are you going to change that chord for that bridge that you said? And I'd just look at him and go, well, you need to eat, buddy. Like, let's go. I can't do this. So I'd just go and grab him food, and I think little things like that he kind of really appreciated. And yeah, anytime when you get to that point, especially like with the Hearts of the what's it called? Somebody I used to know tour and that. I think that, having someone you can trust, I think is a pretty good thing. But he put together a great band. I mean, I remember when he went through the auditions for the big tour, it was all based on like who could play and replicate the parts and all that kind of stuff, and the rest was like, are they cool? Can I hang out with them? We're going to be on the bus, you know, for however many months. Like, are these people still experiencing the joy of making music, you know? And all of us were. It was a freaking amazing band Wally put together. So yeah, it was pretty special. It was hard, man. It was hard too.
What do you mean?
Wally. Okay, so I mean, I'm sure you've worked with singer-songwriters, and you've got the two opposite sides of the spectrum. You've got songwriters who are like, yeah, man, I don't care, whatever. Like, yeah, whatever you're playing's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the other opposite end of the spectrum, which is like, no, it has to go like this. And you're doing two ghost notes on the one E and. It's only one ghost note on the A. And you know what I mean? Like people that are really that meticulous in controlling everything. So Wally's like that, but with intention and reason. So, I mean, so on that side of the spectrum, right, you got those guys that are like super want to control everything, and some of them don't know why. It's like, why is that ghost note so important? Well, because that's how it is on the album. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, does that translate live? What if the bass player's doing something different, so that's getting in the way? Whereas with Wally, it's like, no. That, you know, that ghost note is, you know, anticipates this next beat, which means the lyric can then come on the, you know, and of the next but. Like there was a reason for everything. There was intention for everything. Even my glisses, man. I remember doing rehearsals. There's this one song that opens up with a gliss, and he's like, okay, you've got it right. You got to start on the 5 and then slide down to, he goes, but you know, you're doing it, I think I was doing it too fast. Man, this is so long ago, I can't even remember. But he was like, you got to understand this song is about anticipation and sort of like holding on to things for as long as you can before it's too late. And, you know, so like we had to change the gliss where I had to hang on it higher a little bit, go slower, and then at the end, like as if you were tumbling, falling over your feet, then sort of speed up towards the end of the gliss to get to the last note. And it's like, you never ever think about that stuff. You just do a gliss. You know, it's like, oh yeah, the bass intro, and off you go. So, you know, to really get into those sort of little nitty gritty things, but with intention, with reason.
Wow.
That changed that changed everything for me, man. Yeah. But it was difficult because he expected that every single night, and rightly so. He could deliver, you know. So he really, expected us to be up at his level, and we all worked as hard as we possibly could to do that. And I think most of the time we kind of nailed it. I hope. you have to get him in on the podcast and ask him yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that most nights he was sort of happy, but if he wasn't, he'd let us know. I mean, there was songs that I was still practicing the last day of the tour that I felt that I hadn't really nailed for him, you know, because of the intention wasn't quite there yet, you know, for the song. One of them's The Only Way. Yeah, I really struggled with that song. Yeah, it's simple bass line. It's a great bass line, but it's those. It was a real little 1-2% things that there was his expectation that made that gig so difficult, like good difficult.
Yes,
you know, it was challenging.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, well, it goes like this because it just does, and do it. It was and within that he let us improvise a little bit and stuff like that. Okay, one more Gotye story, right?
Sure.
So. We're doing the arias. It's his first ever arias performance. And so he's on drum kit. We don't have in-ears. We've got a backing track, which just on fold back, and the opening of the backing track, there's a delayed thing. Gung, 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 gung. So there's our time, right?
Oh, okay.
Off you go, right? Then the track starts. So he's playing drums, singing live on TV, closing the arias with this backing track pumping out, and he's just keeping in time with the track, no click. Absolutely amazing, right? Yeah. Absolutely amazing what this guy can do. So we're playing it, and it's like a Motown thing. So I'm doing a few like Donald Duck Dunn style fills, you know, really simple stuff. And the performance was great. And we all walk off stage, and everyone's like happy and elated. And he comes over, puts out his arm around me, and he's like, "Luke, man, that was great. Like, thank you so much. It was, you know, a lot of fun doing that with you, and blah 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 blah." It's like, you know, just after the second chorus, like you did this fill, I was like, I think I know what you're talking about. It was I've been hanging on to this film, and I could not wait to play it. I go, no, exactly what you're talking about. He goes, yeah, like you went like, but and then he sang it to me. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I played. And he goes, yeah. So when you go up to that note, which would have been the dominant seventh of the chord, you need to be careful because the string lines were going down from the tonic. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like we created contrapuntal, like, country motion, contrapuntal harmony. He's like, yeah, but like when you landed on the dominant seven, they were coming down, so they were on the major seven. So you created a semitone clash. And like, dude, we're talking like, ba-ya-ya, like we're talking, it was that fast.
Yeah.
But he heard it while he was staying in time playing drums and singing live on TV. And he goes, look, man, like do those fills, it's all cool, but just be careful where you place them. Just be aware of what everyone else is doing. And it was like, number one, that was a huge light bulb for me that, although I thought I listened enough, obviously I didn't. And yeah, that this dude misses nothing, which is why his music's so amazing, which is why that song was so popular.
Wow.
Everything is there with intention. He's very aware of everything. And he's right, because a semitone clash in a happy song like that, it was like, what's it called? Learn a Little Giving and Love and whatever, but it's like one of those, super up, super happy Motown things. So I get it. You don't want to hear clashes on a song like that, it's not really appropriate. And although it was over in a second, yeah, it really made you think about where you're putting everything and the way you're playing it and listening. Because like that's the most important thing about being a musician. I think the most important thing about being a musician is being able to listen. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's something that we don't talk enough about, And when you're young, fair enough, because it's all about chops and, oh man, can you do the Picaro fill? Oh yeah, the Gad thing, and oh Vinny, and oh Nate Smith and whatever else. But like you sort of hit a musical age, and yeah, things really start changing, and it's like, yeah, you really start to listen, and you understand that is far more valuable than anything else in terms of being a musician, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting hearing you say like how impactful some of those things were from that period. Especially like having such like an intensely focused and detailed band leader, but that also expressed it sounds like in a way that was quite constructive and still supportive, rather than the James Brown thing of like, I heard that thing and I've docked your pay.
Yeah.
Or like, Buddy Rich, you're off.
Yeah.
The tour bus leaves without you.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to replace you in the next town.
So, dude, and we also thought that too, man. There was after a few gigs, we'd all be like, walking back to the hotel and we're going, do you think there's going to be a plane ticket like on just waiting for me at my desk? That was the big thing. You're just going to go into the hotel and there's a little envelope on your desk, open it up, there's your plane ticket home tomorrow morning. It's like, far out. Obviously I didn't do that well. Yeah. But sorry. But yeah, it was, yeah, man. He definitely had a way of communicating that, and I remember experiencing him. If you didn't get it, he would work out another way to explain it to you, so you did. Yeah, I remember once we were working on a guitar solo for one of the songs, and Ben Edgar was doing this great solo, and then Wally was like, yeah man, that's cool, but can you make it like more angular? He's like, yeah, all right, cool. And we did another take and he tried it and he's like, yeah, that's better, but it needs to have A, B, C and create this and maybe more tension notes, and if you could perhaps create some more like textural kind of sounds within it. Ben's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Plays it and Wally's like, yeah, that's better. And he goes, you're trapped in a box, and the more you push, like it's clear so you can see outside and there's something outside that you want, and the more you push against the box, right, in this desperation to get outside the box, you feel that the box slowly tightening on you, and it's getting smaller, so you frantically push harder to stop it, but the harder you push, the more it tightens up. The next solo Ben did was like mind-blowing. And I remember, in that moment just going, wow, Wally, that's really cool. I don't know many people that will go, well, okay, this person's not understanding what I'm trying to accomplish, so let's tackle it from another perspective.
Yeah.
And he always gets it done. Like as in Wally always finds a way to get the best out of every musician in the band. So yeah, you gotta respect the guy a lot, man. It was, and again, this is also why it's so difficult and so amazing at the same time, that gig, you know. But yeah, a lot of learning, huge learning curves happened on that gig. Yeah.
So what's it like, you know, doing something like that where you're learning, but you're also supported, but then also doing like, you know, we've had a lot of guests on the show that have done like the Renee Geyer gig.
Oh yeah,
which is a very different style of band leader.
Totally. Oh yeah, she's the opposite end of the spectrum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like just do whatever you want, you know, but with a level of trust. And she also had a real expectation of your ability to always follow her. You know what I mean? So if she was on stage and we were like absolutely peaking, massive crescendo, if in her mind she heard the musical arrangement just needs to go like bang down to a whisper, she will cue that. And in a millisecond, the entire band would react. And it would create these musical moments that were phenomenal. But that was the only expectation with Renee. You know, she really, if she liked your playing, then she'd ask for you to come back because she liked what you did on those songs, you know, or like from a live perspective. So, you know, Lucky Doley, he's my all-time favourite with that. Do you know Lucky? He's a Sydney Hammond player.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's amazing. Lucky does gigs with man, this guy, he's played with like Joe Bonamassa. I mean, he's in Jimmy Barnes's band full-time.
Right.
He's got his own band, the Lucky Doley Trio, which is phenomenal. Jackie Barnes on drums and Joel Burton on bass.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Anyways, but Lucky's the exact opposite. So doing gigs with him, it's like, hey, Lucky, you know this bass line? I'm not sure. He goes, yeah, man, you'll be fine. Yeah, but like, you know, whatever you do will be totally cool. Like, okay, well, what about this solo? Because I'm a bit unsure about the chords. Like the bass is kind of doing this movement thing. He's like, yeah, man, I trust you. Whatever you play will be fine. But you're doing a solo. What if I do the wrong chords? He's like, hey, we're all great musos on stage. We'll figure it out. Like, it'll be cool. I'll go with you. You go with me. Let's just do it. And it's like, wow, to have that much freedom is absolutely like the dream. with trust though.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that freedom, the opposite end of that scale where it's just like, do whatever you want, man. Yeah, that's cool. Like people just don't care. Like you could cut out for a whole verse and they wouldn't even know, you know, and that's a little bit heartbreaking. But you know, those sorts of musos exist. But yeah, it's definitely, they're the two opposite ends of the spectrum that I absolutely love, working for like someone like Wally and working for someone like Renee or Lockie, where it's just absolute freedom and they trust you to make the correct musical decision in the moment, you know, and to play their songs however it needs to be played, you know. Yeah, but I guess they also invite something different, you know. What could you add to their music? Whereas with Wally, it was very much, we're here to recreate this album live the best that we possibly can and to get the intention of my music across to every person in the audience. Yeah, which I loved about him. And so, yeah, and then there was a whole, you know, like you said before, that whole people that don't listen to an album start to finish and all that kind of stuff. So I mean that was massive in America. The people only knew us for the one song, knew him for the one song. So in the States especially, against the wishes of his management and promoters and everything, he put somebody that I used to know like maybe second or third in the set list.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yep. So we'd play a couple of songs.
Because that's where it is in the album, isn't it? It's like maybe it's like the fourth track.
It's been so long, I don't know, because I could not listen to it for quite some time after the tour. But
yeah, understandably.
But yeah, normally, you know, we did we saved it till last, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, in America, he started to put it second or third in the set. It was great. So we'd play it, and then he'd get up to the mic and he'd go, "All right, for those people that just came to hear that song, there it was. If you want to leave, we'll give you a couple of minutes to get your stuff and walk out." Amazingly, a lot of people left. Yeah, people, only in America, they'd stand up and they'd walk out like, we've heard the song, great, that's all I wanted. So as soon as they left, he'd go, all right, everyone that's left, obviously you're here for the music. Security, I'm very sorry, but I'm going to ask everyone to come up to the front. It's like, I know there's general admission tickets and there's this, but if you want, please come to the front. Security will let you through. And we'd stay on stage for like maybe a minute, 2 minutes, let people shuffle. And then that was it. He had his captive audience right there that wanted to hear everything and that were appreciative of it. So, you know, which of course makes it so much easier to perform. Nothing worse than people that are just like looking at their watch going, I've heard my song. I just want you to finish the gig so I can go home. So yeah, and love Wally for having the balls to do that.
Yeah.
But also it did make those specific American gigs much more enjoyable for us. Yeah. It's way better playing to, I mean, it was never half the crowd, but you know, you're better off playing to 2/3 of a crowd that are there to listen rather than, you know, just a arena full of people that are talking and on their phones and stuff. So yeah, I got nothing bad to say about that dude, man. He's incredible.
Wow,
he's such an impressive human being, you know. Yeah, I mean, hyper intelligent as well and all that kind of stuff, and you know, speaks. It still amazes me. Look, dude, I went to high school with him. I've known him for years. We're in France. And he's doing a TV interview, and the guy sits down and just starts speaking French. I'm like, what the? When did you learn French? And he's like, oh, no, my mum used to speak it around the house a bit, and, you know, I guess it's still kind of somewhere in the back of my mind. I'm like, you just did an interview in French. That's conversational French. What the? Anyways. But yeah,
wow.
That's him. That's Wally. But yeah, it was a magical gig. Yeah. Anyways. Sorry. Okay, one more story. I hope I won't get into trouble. So he's recorded some new stuff. And I was listening to one of these songs, and it was such a brilliant song. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to get Tony Levin to play bass on it. I'm like, are you serious? Because we made a friend in New York. Anyway, connections. Yeah, so Wally went and hung out, and I'm like, straight away I called him, like, dude, what was it like? You know, Tony Levin's a god. And he was like, oh, man, it was so cool. Hung out with his dog and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, recorded the album. Anyways, I had to listen to it. It was the most amazing bass playing I've ever heard. There's no way I could have come up with what this guy came up with. It was just incredible. Absolutely perfect for the song. Really interesting small parts, little flourishes that were just so beautiful. And I thought, yeah, okay, Wally, you've gone in. Like, why would you ever want to use me when you've got Tony Levin and that kind of caliber at your fingertips? So anyway, you know, however many months pass, I'm like, oh, how's that song, man? Like, is it finished? Have you mixed it? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I think it's done. Yeah, like, you know, it still needs to be mastered or whatever. I said, oh, man, how's that Tony Levin bass line? He goes, oh, yeah, I ditched it. What? He's like, yeah, you know, I was listening to it and I listened back with the demo bass line and I thought lyrically that ties in more with what Tony did. It was like almost too beautiful, you know what I mean? So the demo bass actually fit the song better. It created a bed for the lyrics to sort of more meaningfully lie on. And so I'm just like, I don't know anyone that would make that decision. You know what I mean? If someone had, I don't know, man, you know, bloody whoever, Nate Smith or, you know, Lee Sklar or like whatever legendary session musician was on the track, like most musicians would be like, yeah, that's the take, that's it. But he's like, nah, serves the song first.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a real artistry. So yeah, very, very, very blessed to work with someone like that. But yeah, man, I'm sure you've done the same though. Like, you know, I mean, like Wally's huge and he's had a lot of success and all that kind of stuff, but that definitely exists, I think, still in Melbourne, you know what I mean? Well, I'd like to think so. I like to think that there's more of those sorts of people where, yeah, there's a real intention and everything's super important. Yeah. He can play too. I don't know if you've ever seen him play drums, man, but...
No, I've never seen him.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. He's that dude that's like, oh, yeah, I haven't played drums for like 6 months, and he gets on the kit and like does a little warm-up and then just like goes into some like blast beat stuff and then, you know, he'll do some crazy thing in 7 or whatever and,
wow,
you know, revisit his high school years and play some Weckl, and you're just like, what on earth? I'd have to warm up for like 20 minutes before I could do any of that, you know? But
wow.
He's just one of those dudes. Yeah, phenomenal drummer. Sense of time is incredible. But yeah, anyways. Well, yeah, that was that gig.
Let's chat more about you because, you know, I'm also intrigued by like what it's like having done things like that. You know, you've had like quite a long career. What's it like now? Especially like, you know, you were talking about like, oh, well, when I started, there wasn't the internet, like learning tunes and stuff. And we were talking, I had David Jones was the last guest we had on the podcast.
Wow. Yeah.
And, you know, like he started a Patreon now. And
cool.
He posts on social media all the time.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, that like the industry has like changed. And for him, he was like, oh, I used to call people. You know, I'd get to a city and I'd say, hey, I'm here. And then you know, he'd get work. But now he's like, well, now I post things and that gets me the work. And things like that.
Yeah.
What's it like for you in your scene? Because, you know, David's like another generation older again.
He is.
Or maybe even 2. But the industry has still changed so much. In even just the last like decade.
Yeah.
But like the Gotye things like early noughties, late noughties or something.
2012 I think. That all
okay,
happened.
sorry. Yeah.
That's still like over 10 years ago, 12 years ago or whatever. No, look, Dave is definitely onto something, because that's how it also keeps you fresh in their mind. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Like if for example, like we're doing this podcast, right? So if someone called me as soon as I left here and said, "Hey man, I need a drummer," like, you're fresh in my mind. I'd be like, "Man, I was just hanging out with Luke, dude. Man, get him. He's great. Just make sure it's a real drum kit, not electronic." So yeah, I would never do that to you again, Luke. I promise. So there's definitely something in that. Just being more present in social media is the same, because like before the internet and stuff, it was more about, you were just social. There was so many gigs on, and you just hang out. Especially like in my era, like when I used to live on Brunswick Street, which would have been early 2000s, roughly like 2004 or something. There was like every night there was like 6 or 7 gigs on that one street.
Wow.
And I'd go down and see Buttered Loaf, play Yuri and Sel and Cousins and all those dudes, and then you'd go up to the Nightcat and Rumberos or whatever would be playing. Ryan Menendez would be on kit, or Darren Ferrugia or whatever. Like, then you'd walk around to Gypsy Bar. Josh Owen would be doing a reggae gig there, and like. But then there's all those people at those gigs, and they see you and you chat. It's that thing of being a muso, of like, you've got to be really, if you're social and you're in the front of people's minds, you will just get more calls. But also you got to be real damn good, hey? Like, you were talking about Andy Fissenden before. Like, that dude, he's not the most present on social media, even hanging out at gigs because he's so busy. But, when you think about some of the greatest drummers in this country, he's one of the first names that pops up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that dude... I think people like Lee Fisher, Danny Ferrugia, they're all the same. People like that are just so good at their not only at their instrument, but at making music, that they're on the front of everyone's mind all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's by far the most important thing, being just real good at what you do, playing real good, which is hard. I'm still trying to work that one out. So yeah, I'm definitely leaning more towards just being social. Hey, anyone need a bass player? Woo!
I think, like you say though, like with like you're talking about like the auditions for the big Gotye tour. Like, it's like playing first, hang second.
Yeah. Like,
I guess like maybe like music school and like stuff like that can like overshadow the like, it's just all about playing. And playing is definitely like, you got to be great, but also like socially too, like
100%. Yeah,
all those guys, it's like you maybe you wouldn't even know that they're an extremely amazing player because they're just so lovely. Yeah
Tony.
And then there you go, right?
Prime example.
And then you see him play and it's mind-blowing. It's like, oh well, of course. But they're also just like some of the nicest human beings around, like
exactly
like yourself.
Well, jury's out on that one, but it's I'm sure there's someone with a negative story. You'll be in a podcast one day. Well, Lucas Taranto, he was a couple of months ago. What? That phony? You never know. But no, look, there's definitely some truth to that. We don't want to hang out with people that are intense, or no, intense is the wrong word. Yeah, you just don't. People don't want to be drained. I think some people forget why we got into this. That amazement of like, I mean, I'm sure you remember it, man. Like, someone gave you a pair of sticks and you hit a snare drum and you're like, oh, cool, like that's easy. But then when you played your first beat, rock beat number 1, boom, boom, just that one bar, as a young Luke would have, like, your mind would have been blown. Oh my God, I did it. And that feeling, I think, if you can keep that captured, then that will get you through your entire career, because people see that, and that also keeps you young at heart and just still so excited about making music. I think a lot of people forget that. You lose track of like just how amazing what we're doing is. That like, I always think, yep, I'm just pushing some bits of nickel against a bit of wood and plucking this string. You know what I mean? Like, it's super simple, but the fact that we are doing it and it's coming together and making songs and stuff, like that feeling of excitement that when you're a young kid and then you first experience that, I think it's super duper important to hold on to. And I think that's what keeps us vibing and young and a pleasure to be around.
Yeah.
You know, and exciting to make music with. It's those people that are just over it, or they've lost that magic and it's like, ugh, another gig. I hate weddings. And I mean, I don't care if it's a wedding, if it's a cafe, if it's, you know, you're in a stadium or an arena. It's, yeah, you've got to hold on to that magic of like, holy cow, this is cool. Like, I can't believe that I'm just pushing down a couple of strings on a bit of wood and it's making these frequencies and we're all doing it at the same time and it's sounding together, and like it's a simple but a very special thing. Yeah, so I think holding on to that magic definitely keeps you more fun to hang out with.
How do you do that? Like, I can see you talking and like you get excited about it. Like,
I do,
you know,
totally.
your face lights up, and before you're talking about like, you know, well, you're constantly learning and like I'm pushing myself to learn these different bass, you know, and push my time and stuff. We were chatting.
Yeah.
Like
constantly. Yeah.
Like, how do you do, like, I don't know, maybe it's getting too specific, but how do you grasp the thing that can't be grasped? To like, to hold on to it. Like you're saying, like you just hold on to it, but like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I think parts of it, I mean, I try to remind myself of that a lot. And I mean, having a son definitely changed my perspective, because then all of a sudden you get to see through their eyes. Like they're, you know, I mean, for a real simple example would be, I remember the first time my kid ate strawberries, you know, and he had them and he wanted his, and it was like sort of sweet but tart. And he made that little face. It was like, oh, and then like his pupils got big and was like, yeah, more of that, and starts jamming him into his mouth. And it's like, holy cow, he's never ever tasted a strawberry before, you know? So getting to relive a lot of those moments, because my son's only 9 now, but I still see him do, like, he just figured out this Kung Fu Panda, he's obsessed with Kung Fu Panda. Anyway, there's this part of a song, it's a little major pentatonic run, and he kind of figured it out himself. And the joy on his face when he did that, like, oh my God, I'm playing like what's on the TV on Kung Fu Panda. Like, it really keeps that flame ignited in me. But not everyone has a kid to do that. I think seeing students, because a lot of us teach, you know what I mean? Like, being a musician, it's not as simple as, I just do my gigs and that's enough money. We don't live in America. So we all need ways to supplement or diversify our income. So teaching really young kids, I get that a lot. When I see them make a note clearly, and then I get excited, like, you did it! You couldn't do that last week and you're doing it now! Oh my God! And then they get really proud and like, oh, I did, I played a note, like, wow! So yeah, I think seeing it, and yeah, trying to get others to experience it as well is what keeps it in the forefront of my mind. Yeah, but I mean, there's stuff I haven't thought about too. There's people's natural disposition, you know. Some people, I'd imagine Tony was born. Sorry, Tony, we're talking so much about you without you being here. But I'd imagine he was born like literally. You know, most babies cry as soon as they're born in the first 30 seconds. I reckon he was laughing, like he was ready to go, like just a happy baby, happy kid. So yeah, some people I think are just like that, and other people might be a bit darker and stuff like that. But that magic of how special it is to be able to make music, not just the opportunity to make music, but just the ability, you know, to do it as well. Then, yeah, I think if you've got that, then yeah, you can be a bit dark or a bit twisted or a bit weird, or, you know, even a little bit complainy. You know, I won't say his name, but there's definitely musicians out there who are absolutely phenomenal. And after every gig, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I played that 30-second note. Like, I think I sped up like 0.6 of a BPM, and oh, I'm so sorry about this and that. And it's like, chill, dude. Like, you know, as draining as sometimes those conversations can be, those people are still happy and, you know, just striving to be their best. So this is waffling on a bit. So yeah. The important thing is, though, that they're still cool and still making great music and amazed and happy, and yeah, happiness. I think it's just all about happiness, isn't it? Yeah. Saying that, I've got a few drummers on my blacklist, you know,
right,
that are just angry dudes, or that don't have that musicality, don't have that. They're like, no, we were supposed to play the bridge and we didn't play the bridge, and they just start hitting cymbals or screaming at people on the gig, and it's like, dude,
yeah, right,
we missed the bridge. Everyone else has moved on. Like, be musical about it, you know? And like, you had the prime opportunity to be that drummer, you know, like when you were doing your gigs and you learnt them exactly as per the recordings. Man, when you were on that gig, you had every chance to turn around and go, no, this is not how the recording goes. Everyone else is doing it wrong. But you didn't. You just went, hey, I'm Luke. I play the drums. Everyone's going there. Let's go there, man. Let's see where this is going to go. Cool. Like, who knows the live ending? I don't know. We're going to find out. Let's see what happens. So, you know, you just being yourself like that. I mean, that's already part of it, you know. You're on my blacklist. You're amazing at that gig. But you know, I say blacklist. It sounds so harsh. It's just people that, you know, it's not as much fun making music with sometimes. You know? But there's not many of them in Melbourne. There's not many. Yeah, I think we're man, how lucky are we, man? Like, Melbourne musos, absolutely incredible. Yeah, definitely blessed.
So why have you stayed here in Melbourne? Like, you know, you've toured all over the world and around Australia.
Yep. Well,
you know, you got family and stuff too, but like, did you ever think like about, you know, trying to set yourself up somewhere else?
Dude, that's, yeah. So just before COVID, I went over to Turkey.
Right.
Excuse me. Sorry. So my wife's Turkish, and we had to go there for you know, X, Y, Z, whatever, for a few different reasons. I'd always wanted to live overseas, and this opportunity came up. So we went to Turkey. We stayed for a few months, and then I started getting gigs, not like from Australian artists that were touring overseas.
Oh, yeah.
So then I was in London with Kate, and then like I met up with Lockie Doley. I was going to do some work with him. But I landed some sessions in London, so I flew back to Turkey to be with my family and was like recording there, and
wow.
Yeah, and I was like, this is it. This is what I've always wanted to do. So we bunkered down and got a place over there. I thought we're going to spend the next few years here doing gigs and stuff. And it was great. Work started coming in, and I was, you know, doing some stuff in Germany and Frankfurt and talking to friends and this and that. And then COVID hit, and it was like lockdown. So, yeah, we thought, how long is this going to last? We'll just stay in Turkey and ride it out. And 3 years later, we got the itch or my wife really got the itch to come home. It was most difficult for her being over there, just because I had the language barrier. So I could play dumb, but she had to like sort of take care of basically everything.
Yes.
That was, you know, beyond me language wise. So yeah, it was tough for her, but also our son was getting older and he had to start school and that. So we kind of thought, yeah, let's go home to Melbourne, and we did. And I got to be honest, man, like, it was nice coming home playing with Melbourne dudes again.
Yeah.
You know? Like, as great as it is being overseas and all this kind of stuff, you know, just in terms of, having a son and him going to school and stuff like that, it was, Melbourne was definitely the right choice to come back home. So, I mean, I feel like I've done it, but I do wish I did it a little bit earlier. I went to America for a little bit longer and tried over there, because we're just as good as, if not way better than most American musicians, you know. Very different system over there. Have you played in America much, or?
No, only very tiny bit.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like, the gigs over there pay so incredibly well. It's ridiculous how well they're paid over there. And once you crack into that scene, that's it, you're in. But you know, with that comes the bad part about living in America, you know, especially when you've got kids and they've got to go to school and guns and all that kind of stuff. So, that's sort of off the cards. But anyways, playing in America, I realised that, I can do this. Anyone in Melbourne can do this, you know. I don't know about you, but I always thought that American musicians were like the best in the world. No one was better than them. And again, this is growing up without the internet. You know what I mean? Like, the only exposure I ever had was hot lick videos, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what you think, and then you get there and you're like, nah. Australians have definitely got it down. So but I highly advise any musician to go do that when they can. Go live overseas, you know, before you have a family or before it's too difficult to. It's really fantastic, and it exposes you to so much more that we just don't have in Melbourne. You know what I mean? It's really easy to get closed off, and you just go to your regular gigs and, you know, play with your regular people. So it's good to branch out. I'm big on the fish pond theory: small fish, big pond.
Yes,
all that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I always think that if you ever feel like you're the biggest fish in the pond, it's time to get out. You need to go to a bigger pond, be that smaller fish again, and learn from the greats and get to their size. And then and on you go, you know. Yeah, that's my theory, but everyone's different.
Yeah, but I guess it's part of like why you like to keep learning and pushing yourself. Like, you know, you've got that awareness and I think the intrigue of like pushing it. So if you're like, oh, I'm feeling a bit comfortable, what am I going to do to like do it? I'm going to learn this new thing or push it like this by moving somewhere else or whatever. Like,
it's interesting you say that, because for me, I actually feel most uncomfortable when I'm comfortable. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the biggest fish in the pond, so to speak, you know, I'm like, nah, this isn't the place for me.
yes.
Like it's almost like I don't like things that are too easy. I love an easy life. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, like musically speaking, if I feel like I'm sort of, the biggest fish in the pond, it's like, I got to get into a new scene or play with new people or do something that keeps me growing. Yeah, I don't like that feeling of. This is a bit of a weird analogy, but I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about winning Mr. Olympia over and over again, and there was some other bodybuilders there, and they're like, you know, you're at the top of the mountain and you're getting lazy. You know, all these hungry wolves are like coming up to get you. You know, and they're hungrier and they want what you've got. And they're willing to work harder for it. And then Arnold handled it really well. He goes, yeah, but I'm at the top of the mountain and I'm a wolf and I've still got to eat too. And I was like, yeah, cool, you go, Arnold. But for me, like, that feeling of being at the top of the mountain is not a pleasant place to be for me. I feel much better on the side of the mountain still climbing. Yeah, as weird as that sounds,
No, makes sense.
Yeah, for me, that I know I need that to get pushed. It's like studying. Man, I really want to go back and study some more, do my master's, honours, whatever. And because I need that push. If I'm just sitting at home, then I won't. But if someone's like going, you're crap, Taranto, you need to learn your, you know, fucking demolished chords or whatever, then it's like, all right, teacher, I'll go do that. So, I think that's, and that's a big part of what we do, you know. I mean, don't you feel that? Like that constant need to sort of practice, or like you've always got something to work on? You know?
Yeah.
Always got an area to improve on, or just, I don't like being comfortable.
When I was at uni, I remember, you know, each week I would get a decade's worth of drum material.
Yeah. Who was your teacher at uni? Or your main teacher?
So the longest teacher was Danny Fisher.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then I had Dave Beck. And I think I had Tony for a semester right at the start.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Wow.
But it was mostly with Danny Fisher. Because I also, like, I tore the tendon in my thumb like the week before my second year tech exam.
Oh, man.
So my uni experience was a bit messed up because that took like, you know, more than 6 months or something to heal. And
yeah, man, I could imagine.
Yeah, it was a bit of it got misdiagnosed. So it was,
the worst.
It was a really long
left hand?
Yeah, left hand.
Yeah, and your thumb, traditional or match? Your match grip?
Matched.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Oh, you know, these things happen.
But did it allow you to tackle drums from a different perspective?
Yeah,
did
it completely changed.
You know?
Yeah. I went from... It definitely changed, like, the amount of work I put in, but it really changed... Like, I think because it was like, well, now I'm physically, like, changed. You know, like, I lost so much speed, and I lost 6 months of, like, practice, and I was practicing hours a day.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, that's different. But also I still played some shows, like, when my hand was in a brace, because I could still kind of, like, flick a backbeat.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, so, like...
How did you find that for your creativity, though? All of a sudden, your left hand could not do what it used to do.
Yeah.
So how did you adapt in terms of like, well, this is that part of that song where there's a big drum fill. What am I going to do?
I guess I just, like, I really lent in to Jeff Porcaro's, like, I'm not here for the solo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
And, like, I was already that kind of guy anyway. Like, I'd always sort of thought, like, oh, I really want to be a session drummer.
Yep.
I'm not here to, like, be fancy. I just want to lay it down and make it feel great.
Yep.
But I think losing that, like, period of practice of, like, chops really sort of went, okay, well, we can't, that option's completely off the table for at least, you know, the 3 months that your hand's in a brace. So, okay, we're just going to focus in on time and feel and
the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
It helped get me out of that, like, uni, like, push.
Yeah.
I guess. Like, because the technique stuff is awesome too, but musically,
Yeah.
it sort of brought me back. In my early days was, I grew up playing in the church, so it was, I was playing in services when I was 7, and it was just about listening.
Yes.
And you're playing with other people, and they say, do a bit more of this. Okay, yep. But like,
awesome.
there's no charts and there's no anything else. It's just about making music with other people.
Yeah.
And it's not a performance. So I think like I'm so grateful for that experience because it's shaped it.
Definitely, man. Yeah. And that experience of breaking, of ripping your tendon, like making you go back to sort of square one almost, I think every musician has a point in there. Like I've done it twice where I've just gone like, what am I doing? Let's go back, C major scale, 80 BPM, big fat beautiful minims and crotchets. Like let's just go, like. So yeah, I think the fact that you were forced to do that's absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that sometimes those physical things just allow for a different creativity to emerge, you know what I mean? Well, it's like, it is all pocket. So when you do have to do that big drum fill, it's not like a chop fill all of a sudden, it's a pocket drum fill.
Yeah.
Very, very different, you know? So
a big Michael Bland kind of thing.
oh man, I love Michael B. The best drummer Prince ever had, as far as I'm concerned. I know that's controversial. People are going to complain. I love Michael B's playing, man. It's just so big and fat. But yeah, exactly it. Man, I remember getting, what happened? I think I stopped playing. Oh, when I was stung by a bee, my hand got fat. Oh. Yeah, so on the gig, I couldn't do what I could normally do, and I could pretty much only use like 1 or 2 fingers. But then that made my playing so much more melodic. And these ideas that I'd do every gig, like we've all got those licks, and one of them was like whatever. All of a sudden, I couldn't do that. But I wanted to do it, so it would be like do-do-be-ya, do-do-do. Like I'd have to augment it, stretch it out, so I could still get those notes out. But yeah, and it's like, whoa, that is awesome. I'm doing exactly what I used to do, but I have to augment everything out now to half the speed, and it's like twice as cool. Because we get faster and faster, and increments get slower and closer and closer, and so it's nice to sort of get knocked back a few pegs and just go, oh, I can't do that anymore, and now I'm doing something that's way better at half the speed.
It's so true that stuff really just pushes you. Like I was doing a cruise ship gig out of the States, and I hurt my foot. I stood on this like massive thorn, like went deep into my right foot, and I couldn't play.
Dude.
And so there were no other drummers on the ship, and it's like a week cruise, around the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So we set the kit up left-handed.
Yeah.
So I could play the kick drum with my left foot, and then play like open-handed with my right.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was like a real mind bender. But like that was more like what you're saying of like, okay, well, I'm playing like 4 hours of covers. My right foot is just like resting with ice. And we've got to like figure out like, okay, now like the left's doing those kicks and everything's in the wrong position, but like it was fun, it was creative, and it pushed, and
that's it. That's how we've got to see these situations, I love that. I mean, sorry, it's very unfortunate that you were hurt,
and then I got really sick and I came back to Australia. It was a nightmare, but anyway, dude, for the 2 days before like it got really bad, and I thought I was going to lose my foot, then like it was fun.
Holy. Okay. All right, man. Jeepers. Oh, I'm glad you got both your feet. I'm assuming they're both your feet.
Yeah, these are both mine.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We survived that
big
experience.
surgery. They cut it out. It's all good.
They had to cut it out?
Yeah, because the ship wouldn't let me off. Right? And the ship's doctor was like, you're fine. And the whole thing's like huge and purple and like...
Oh, no.
Crazy. And then they put me on the wrong like antibiotics. So I was so sick I couldn't get out of bed. And so I was stuck on the ship for another week. And then I got a special pass to get an ultrasound at the local hospital back in Miami, and I wasn't allowed to take anything with me because it was just to prove that there was nothing wrong with my foot.
Yep.
And then I got there and I met the head surgeon, and he was like, I don't know why this hasn't gone septic. Like, you're so lucky to be here.
Oh
I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, if the infection gets in your blood, you'll die.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like, I thought maybe you're going to cut my foot off. Like, worst case.
Dude, septic, man. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Jeepers.
So they like, cut a hole in the bottom of the foot and pulled it out. There's still like an inch of like this thorn in my foot.
Oh my God.
Yeah. 3 days in hospital, the cruise ship left without me, took my passport and all my belongings.
Oh, dude.
And my contract was like immediately cancelled because I'd missed boarding time as per like the employee thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I'm rambling about the stories.
Oh no, dude, but it's amazing. But it's good, man, because there's going to be kids out there as well that might actually listen to this and go, "I've always wanted to do a cruise ship," and then there's like, "Oh, okay, never leave the cruise ship without your passport." That's the rule number one.
Well, but that's the problem. You're not allowed to because they're stopping you running away to like falsely immigrate into America.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man.
Yeah.
Still,
my recommendation.
Very sorry for that.
I spoke to lots of people. Some loved the cruise, some hated the cruise. And if I was to ever do it, I would only now do it with a group of mates in the band.
Yep.
So I knew that the band was great and the hang was great.
Yes.
Rather than flying in as a session musician.
Yep.
Because it was, it's really hit and miss.
Dude, totally. And that's exactly that. There's the Gotye thing again, man. The band's got to be great and the hang's got to be great. That's all we sort of want in life. I'm assuming that's the same with every job, hey? Like, I'm sure there's builders out there that have got their squad,
Probably.
Like, man, let's get this guy to do the plumbing, man. He's hilarious on the job site. He's great and he works real fast and does everything proper and communicates well. And I'm assuming that's it's weird, isn't it? Like, it's being a musician seen as such a different or a special job, but realistically, it's no different to any other job. I think, there's definitely an artistic side of it, but. Sorry, man, I'm rambling on now, but
no, it's fine.
I'm starting to think of I've got these. I've known 3 scuba divers in my life, and all 3 of them had the most fascinating jobs. One was just a scuba diver who worked on some island in the Maldives and just took tourists for little scuba sessions. Another guy was a deep sea welder, so he would 2 weeks out on the mines, like the gas oil refineries, in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. And then he'd be 200 meters under welding and stuff like that. And then another one worked on movies. So he was, whatever movie it was, and there's a famous scene where they're in a river on a boat and the guy falls off the boat and the girl's like, "Oh no, get back in the water." Anyways, he was in that movie. He was under the water, holding onto the boat with both hands so that, when they fell out, the boat wouldn't move anywhere. They didn't need any anchors or anything. And if anything happened, he was in the water for the actor. But
wow.
Yeah. And you think, no one ever thinks about that. But it's the same if you're a carpenter. Yep, you can go and knock up houses. Yep, there's the framework. Cool, next gig. And then, there's dudes that no, I want a specialty. And they go into kitchen cabinetry or staircases, and then from there, staircases, well, that's a real special staircase. We did one built for a movie set. Then bang, you got some dude in Iceland working on Game of Thrones who just started knocking up houses, but now he's a carpenter for movie sets and building these creative things that, the director needs, but it doesn't have to be functioning, but it's got to look good, and or vice versa. So I think any job can have a real artistic side to it, and music's exactly the same, man. I know musos that are just pure entertainers, don't know really what they're doing on the instrument. It's, this is a 1-4-5, we're going to get people on the dance floor, let's go, bang it out. And then there's, the absolute art form, beautiful, incredible musicians that we need, like Gotye, and all those people creating great stuff, from Jude Pearl, who's now writing comedy and hilarious, to someone like Claire Cross, the bass player, man.
Yes,
her compositions get out of town, far out, and that's so beautiful. And I'm sure Claire at one point could have just went, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to do weddings, join the White Tree or the crew, and just smash out, make bucks. But nah, still, in my opinion, one of the better bass players in Melbourne. I haven't seen Claire play for years, man. She's living in Berlin or something, isn't she?
I think so. Yeah.
Because
I was going to get her on the pod. We've had Jude on,
dude.
But I'm pretty sure she's, probably Berlin.
Yeah,
or at least somewhere in Europe.
Oh, do, man, Zoom it, because I think I'd definitely be keen to hear that podcast, because I've only met Claire a handful of times, and always impressive. And I've heard her music and stuff. And I'd definitely listen into that podcast. I think what she's doing compositionally is a great thing for Melbourne musicians, not just bass players. But my point is, that's the true beautiful art form of it, And then there's people like us that are just somewhere in the middle, floating around between, day job and creative, excellent, fantastic music. Plus all of our side projects, podcasts and teaching and royalty acquisition, whatever pays the bills, basically under the musical umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is another interesting one.
All right, we should finish up
Yes.
because like I've kept you way too long.
Oh, dude.
Um,
I'm a rambler, man.
all right, we've got. Yeah, I need to learn how to like.
Cut people off and say, "You've answered the question, man." Now you're just going around in circles.
I get too intrigued, and it's interesting listening to things. All right, so we play this little game on the podcast where I get guests to ask questions of the next guest.
Cool.
So I got a question for you from the legendary David Jones.
Oh my God, David Jones. Go.
Okay, here's the question that I would like to ask, and I don't know who's going to get this question, so this will be very interesting. What is the main motivation in your creating? In your composition, in your way of creating music, your way of creating whatever art you're involved in, what is the main motivation? What are you wanting to give and to experience yourself, of course, but what are you wanting to give through that?
Dave, his voice is so calming, man. I love David. That's a great question, especially the ending. I mean, like, you know, it's that thing. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of it, but like in terms of, you know, having fun and communication. When I say communication, I'm talking like the musical conversation on stage or in the studio, wherever. I mean, like, I think that's a really important, and I think that can dictate a lot of what you give or don't give in certain cases. And that's also what I expect from players. But of course, that's different from every gig, you know. So yeah, it also depends on the gig. But I'd like to think that most gigs I try to put my own voice on whatever bass parts I'm playing. But you know, that's for the next podcast, man. Like I'm still figuring out, I think, what my voice actually is. I'd like people to be able to identify my playing just from listening to it. But yeah, that's one I'm still working on. Yeah, you should talk to Danny Ferrugia about that. I think he's gotten that the best out of everyone I know. The fact that, because I've been playing with him for so long, I've heard the total evolution from him being a 16-year-old kid to what he is now, and I can look back and see the process that he took in order to find the voice that he has now, which is undisputably Danny Ferrugia. Because 10 years ago, you'd hear him play, or more than 10 years ago, and you'd be like, oh, is that Brian Blade or is that Danny Ferrugia? And then, you know, years before that, it'd be like, oh, that sounds like, you know, a kid doing Steve Gadd. And then years before, oh, that sounds like a kid doing Vinny. So now the fact that it's unequivocally, like, undoubtedly, that is Danny Ferrugia playing whenever I hear it, I think he's one of the people in my life that has created a voice for himself and is undisputably him. And I think that's magic, and I'd love to get to that point. That's a constant work in progress.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true about Danny.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was on the podcast or not, because I went out to his place to have him on the show, and we were talking about, like, you know, because he's got his own place now, like where he does all the home recording.
Yeah, great studio.
And you know, he was sort of like, well, like, why would you ever book me now? Because it's just like digital files sent around, like, you know, where you could get Gadd to do it remotely and send the tracks over, or you know, Ash Sloan in his thing, or whatever.
Yeah, Ash Sloan.
And it's like, well, but like, Danny, they book you because it's you, and you have your sound and the experience of working with you. And it's so nice just to have you like lay it all out like that, because it's so true. He has his sound. Yeah,
man, he totally does. And it's not by accident, you know. He's definitely worked on that, and that's a hard thing to do. And I think that the question that David even asked, like, you know, in going through that process and finding your own sound, well, then that also is going to dictate what you give on a gig or a performance, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I know Danny he will not back down. He will go, well, if you want that Picaro groove, then get a Picaro copycat, you know? Like, if you want Danny Ferrugia, then I'll do what I do. So I love that about Danny, you know? And I don't have the guts to even say that, let alone think it, you know? So I always take my hat off to Danny, you know? Like, he's younger than me, but he's an old soul, that kid, you know? He's really got a sharp but logical brain in his head, and Yeah, he's a phenomenal musician.
Mm.
You know, are drummers musicians? Well, there you go. Like, he's the pinnacle as far as I'm concerned in Melbourne. You know? Yeah. But yeah, I think that's my answer to David's question. Did I answer it? I don't know.
Well, what would you like to ask our next guest?
Oh, do I know who it is, or that doesn't matter? Okay, cool.
That's the fun.
Oh, that's the fun.
In fact, I don't even know who the next guest is because I haven't booked him. There's
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah.
It might be Ben Edgar if I'm lucky, but
if it was Ben, I'd definitely have a few questions. I spent a lot of time with Ben.
well, he's coming on the podcast. We can bank one.
Awesome.
But when he gets back from overseas,
Awesome. Ben, man, Ben's a scary session musician. It's scary what he can accomplish on guitar. Yeah, like from creating to replicating. He's definitely got both of those things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, down. He's like, Ben's one of the ultimate chameleons, as far as I'm concerned, and always plays the song. You know, I think that's one of the most important things. But Ben, good vibes on tour, man. He's always entertaining, and it's always up. And plus, he's toured so much that no matter where you are in the world, he's like, "Where are we? Oh yeah, Go Long Bay in Hanoi. Oh yeah, like if I remember correctly, there's a small, supermarket, and there's this cafe next to it, and there it is, that cafe, and it's still ordering. Anyways, Ben's great. A question. Okay, cool. Just hang on. I just need a second. What's a great question? Oh, well, we were just talking about voice. So I guess my question would be, do you feel that you have your own voice on the instrument, and how did you obtain that? And if you don't feel that you have your own voice, do you want one? Is that something that bothers you, or something that you're even aware of? Or are you just happy to just be playing, or to sort of replicate and do your own thing? Yeah, because your own voice in music's everyone has it, but not everyone's is identifiable. Yeah, this is a whole nother podcast on this. Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh,
just on finding your voice. So hopefully the next person can answer that question.
Yeah. Oh, great question. Thanks. Luke.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dude. Yeah.
All right, let's finish with the 5 quick answer questions.
Yep.
Rapid fire style.
Cool.
What's your favourite venue to play in Melbourne?
Nothing rapid about this. My favourite venue. Oh. See, I don't know. I don't think I have one. Yeah, because every venue's got pluses and minuses, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Think about Bird's basement. Great, beautiful stage, great gear, but I miss the old Continental, that's for sure. I miss playing there. Yeah, I can't answer that question right now. Yeah, I don't know.
What would be your dream venue to play at?
This is going to sound really full of myself, but I've ticked all those boxes. Yeah, Gotye, man, Sydney Opera House, Radio City Music Hall, Red Rocks, man, the AB in Belgium. Like, we did some great venues, and I remember sitting on top of this hill overlooking them setting up a venue with my wife, and just thinking, what the hell am I going to do next? Like,
yeah,
where do you go from here? So yeah, when I figure that out, I'll let you know. I definitely feel very blessed to have played where, and so at the moment, it's more about what I'm playing and who I'm playing with. Yep. I love playing at Mimo at the moment, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a handful of gigs there. That's been a lot of fun and really beautiful, and great staff and great sound and everything. So yeah, maybe I guess that venue is pretty special at the moment. Easy load in. Oh, that's a dream. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Sorry, not so rapid 5. Go. We've got 3 to go.
What's your coffee order?
Long black.
What's your favourite venue to get a meal at after a gig?
I don't eat after a gig normally.
Mm-hmm.
Used to enjoy going to Pellegrini's every now and again, playing in the city. But yeah, normally I don't really like to eat much after a gig. Yeah, I'm usually either too buzzy excited or too depressed, and we just want to go home and practice. yeah.
All right, finally, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Listen a lot more. Yeah, listen. Yeah. And if something's not working, don't listen to your bass playing. Listen to everyone else. Yeah? Make it work like that. I've got a question for you, actually.
Yeah, sure.
So as a drummer, when you're playing with someone, like a bass player, because like, okay, your right foot and my bass notes are generally synced, locked in. So when you're playing with someone, do you find that you have to move your notes slightly, or do you find that the bass player does that? Or are you just not even aware of it?
I think it depends who I'm playing with.
Okay.
And the style.
Yep. But do you ever play with a bass player and go, oh, like that? Like just like boom, 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 boom. Just those quavers don't feel as good as what they could.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself moving your foot pattern to like wider quavers, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Changing your groove? You
yeah,
do?
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. Like it makes me think of like when I was at uni, and after uni I had this like a soul band, and the bass player was Billy Morrell. He's gone to London now, but the two of us played together for 5 years, and we were so tight, and I guess we like worked on that stuff so well.
Yep.
I was like, okay, we're gonna do it like this one. All right. Oh, we're gonna like play a D'Angelo thing, so now we're gonna split up. So we're not doing the tight thing. We're doing the like,
Yep.
I'm up in his back, or all right, now we're gonna flip it for this other thing.
Yeah.
And I think like having such like deliberate exploration of that
Yes.
showed me, okay, it's not just about us like nailing it together. I'm listening, and okay, now I can sit with it together. I can sit with this like forward and back and swapped.
Yep.
And then, yeah, if I'm playing with someone and they feel it a bit differently, I think I do try and swap it in, or
Awesome.
I notice that they change it.
Yes.
Me.
I've never had this I've never had this conversation with drummers. Always bass players, and we always get together and go, oh yeah, I've always got to move my notes for this guy, or or no, I love the way that guy plays quavers on his bass drum. Oh no, I hate the way that guy plays. So it's I don't know, I find it fascinating, but the fact that we work together so much, I've never spoken to a drummer about it. It's just always sort of happened.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know sometimes, or is that me moving it, or are we both moving it to make it feel that good, or some drummers are totally oblivious. You know what I mean? That's cool.
I think when it's best, it's like that. It's just like
I don't think about it.
Yeah.
It just happens.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And you finish and you go, that felt great.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Oh man, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thanks for letting me ask a question. So, welcome to Our Drummers Musicians podcast. We've got Luke here. I should actually. On that note, yeah, like that's not a serious question, is it?
What?
Our drummers musicians.
Is it a serious question?
That's what I'm asking you.
Well, that's...
I don't think it's a serious question because the answer's obvious. But that's to me. Of course they're musicians.
It started a conversation, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely did.
Thanks so much, Lucas. It's
No
been
problem.
really fun. You're you're a seriously amazing and talented guy, and I feel so lucky just to be able to have this time with you. And also to have played with you was very special.
Yeah,
So
dude, let's hope we do it again. We should make it happen, you know?
I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely. Although I know your wife's a great bass player, so it's one of those things. But I'll do my best. Yeah.
Lucy's very busy with her band Gush, so
Okay, cool. Yes. While the cat's away, the mice will play. Let's go. Set up. Let's do it now. All right. Man, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, dude. Yeah. Real pleasure. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed diving into the world of another musician as much as I did. Help us grow by leaving a review and sharing the podcast with your friends, family, favorite artist, or anyone else who might enjoy it. For more info and updates, visit ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.